This property has been in my family's name for almost as old as Amjadang is, and I'm one of the last descendants to acquire this property. So right now I just use it as ceremonial grounds and as campgrounds and a historical site. Just where I come and sell my artwork in the summertime. And I sit inside here. This is a nice shady spot. My name is Darren Richard Cottrell. I'm an artist. I paint pictures, I draw, I do portraits, I do all different types of art. And I'm from, I was born and raised at Amjadang First Nation here in Sarnia, Ontario. I've been an artist all my life. I was born with the ability to look at pictures and paint and draw since I was about 4 or 5 years old. But I started getting into the art more as I got older, and I was doing a lot of the criminal activity and spending a lot of time in jail. So I had a lot of time to do stuff. The very first portrait business I ever ran and owned was inside of the Guelph Reformatory. What I would do is I would get the inmates, the other inmates inside these jails, to give me their food and to give me the canteen products. Canteen products is store products, actually, but I'd have junk food and pop and candy and stuff like that. And sometimes I was given marijuana, hashish. So I figured, well, if I could start doing artwork in here and get paid for it and get criminals to give me money or give me things for this, now I can just imagine what I can get normal everyday people to do. So I knew I was onto something. But a lot of these houses here, there was no running water. Some of them didn't have running water, some of them did. And some of them didn't have electricity, some of them did. Some of them didn't even have toilet facilities, so they would build an outhouse in the back, like in the country. A lot of people would look at that as hard times, but anyone that was brought up like that, you wouldn't look at that as hard. It was just normal way of life. And so that's how I accepted alcoholism into my life. It was as a normal way of life, right? I ended up becoming a custody of my grandfather because my mom was, she was 16 at the time. My father was an older gentleman that also lived here on Amjadang, and he was one of my grandfather's friends. So, but anyways, many of the older people that started coming back from the residential schools came back with behavioral problems and emotional problems and all this abuse and stuff that had happened to them. A lot of them, they couldn't even talk about it. So I took a lot of those characteristics on because I was young, and so I grew up around alcohol. So I started learning about drinking, about the negativity in relationships with people, and there were a lot of people that had a lot of anger problems, and plus people are doing a lot of drinking around. So that was the kind of a life I lived, a double life. So whenever I got any kind of abuse I experienced here on Amjadang from either my grandfather or anybody else, I couldn't take that to school because I was scared to get taken away by the Children's Aid, and I couldn't come back and tell anybody here what happened to me at school, because then half the reserve would have got mad, and all this other stuff would have happened. That's what I was always afraid of, that starting trouble or or having to try to prove what he had done. And so that was just like, that's only the tip of the iceberg. There was so much stuff that I grew up around, and that's how I ended up taking on those characteristics and started incorporating that into my lifestyle. It wasn't long before I started coming to school under the influence of alcohol, and I started drinking. I started drinking at the age of 10, and the only reason I did it was because I wanted to see what all the adults were experiencing. It seemed so happy. And yeah, do you smoke? Do you smoke cigarettes?
No, I smoke weed.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Because if you smoke cigarettes, I got ashtrays. Actually, after I get these done here, I'm going to take a little break. So, does everybody here smoke, or just?
I smoke.
Oh yeah.
But she
It's okay, I'm fine.
no filming and smoking. Lawrence would agree.
Oh, okay. So I guess you're not driving, so you're...
I'm not driving today.
When children glamorize hockey players and baseball players and, you know, heroes in a community and that sort of thing, that's how I glamorized criminals. It was passed down, and it kept on being passed down. And so one day I just woke up, and I'd still been drinking, and it was early in the day like this, like 11, 12 o'clock on a Sunday, May of 1982, and I was only 15 at the time. And I called up a taxi driver and robbed him on Tajmur Road here. When you go to jail at the age of 16, when I was 16, there was no young offenders. You went right to general population with the adults, and so that's what happened to me. And so I ended up doing some other criminal activity, but robbing stores was probably the most craziest things that I was doing when I was a teenager, and no other kids would do it. And when I did it and bragged about it, the kids were just fascinated. And so started seeing my name in the paper, I thought that was just the coolest thing.
You remember when you got drunk? Why you got drunk? Whatever's hurting you. The days will pass.
When I eventually got older and I eventually started changing my life around, I had to become aware of all this stuff, and I had been into the treatment center at least 3 or 4 times before I finally started to get in the hang of it. But while I was at those treatment centers, I started learning all this stuff, how domestic violence is taught, and how family violence is passed down, and all these different cycles of violence are passed down. I had a good family. Like, I had a lot of good relatives, but at the same time I had a lot, you know, family and friends that were just as messed up as I was. And so today I help a lot in my community by sharing a lot of this in my videos, and sharing the stuff that I've learned in the treatment centers, and just as I started getting sober, it was growing up in poverty is what it was. But he did his best, and the biggest gift he gave me was the language, which is something that's very hard to find here now. If you go up here, there's one set of lights. Okay, there's one set of lights. That's where Amjanang ends, and there's the band office on this side, right? There's a big teepee on top of the building. That's the band office, and the schools and everything, and the administration building. The first house I grew up in had no running water. It had electricity, but no running water. And so it was, we got our water from a fire hydrant across the road. And there was a well here at one time. There was a well on the property. So a lot of the houses had wells, and a lot of people were able to drink the water from the wells before the chemical plants came. And once the chemical plants came, you couldn't drink from the wells anymore, or drink the water from the wells. They were just, they just became polluted. The ground became polluted.
The first discovery of oil in North America are part of our story.
Each chemical plant had their own dump site. A lot of the older people from the reserve, didn't have jobs, and a lot of men were addicted to alcohol. So it was a quick, easy way to make money. You go to these dumps, and they would go and gather aluminum, copper, and brass, and all these different scrap metals from the chemical plants. And I was running around in those dumps and playing in it, just like it was a playground. So I had to go accompany the adults to go there, and we'd grab all this copper and aluminum, put it in a car and a truck, and then take it to the scrapyard. And the scrap dealerships would buy all this copper and aluminum. They used all the native people to gather all this stuff up, and then they would rip them off. That's what I found out.
A community torn between jobs,
no more chemicals in the valley,
and their health. It is Canada's toxic secret.
Chemical plants have caused a lot of cancer for people, breathing problems, respiratory problems. I'm pretty sure it has a lot to do with the low population of boy babies. That was the first thing that was noticeable, 20 some odd. Even I noticed it. So it's affected the ground, it's affected the water and the air, and so it affected the people around it. It also gave people shorter lifespans. That's, I believe. There's definitely more that could be done that's not being done. There's a lot more could have been done a long time ago that's not been done. And a lot is being covered up and just not being shared. It's until it's discovered, really. Spills, anything like that, especially something big like that, they try to keep it quiet, if anything. There's a lot that that needs to be researched that we don't know about yet. And they're still creating all these different health hazards for the sake of money and for the government. Well, there's not much that can be done now because the plants are there, and I'm pretty sure they're there to stay. And so, as long as we have chemical plants surrounding us, we're pretty much stuck with whatever fate that we have, I guess. One of the reasons I left actually was Sarnia was because of the chemical plants, and because I want to go somewhere. I want to be healthy. I don't want to die catching all these diseases, or I don't want to get cancer or any of those things. But then when I thought about it, I said that Sarnia is still my home, and I don't want to spend my life traveling around and wishing I was home and scared of chemical plants. And so I said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die with the people around me. I'm going to die with the people I've known all my life and my family. So that's the way. I just decided to accept it, and a lot of people accept just the way what we have. Yeah, marijuana. I encourage a lot of that in my videos because it's an alternative for anyone that's suffering from addictions, alcoholism, depression, anxiety. Marijuana is for that reason, right? It's a very relaxing. It's a very relaxing medicine, and this is medicine. This is natural medicine. This wasn't originally North American native medicine, but the South American natives, they were the ones that introduced it to the North Americans.
And it's just like everyone always says, like, no, don't smoke, don't smoke. But like, maybe the industry should stop smoking, because whose flame's bigger, ours or theirs?
Oh yeah, well, that's the way when I see people getting all crazy about coronavirus and all that around here, I'm thinking, like, how many years have we lived here?
I know what you're probably thinking. Why is this little white girl making a documentary on an Indigenous story? The last thing we need is another white person's input on anything to do with Canada's native population. I grew up 15 minutes away from Richard and always thought Sarnia was the greatest city in the world.
How's it going, Brooke?
It's so fun.
Little did I know, the foundation of Sarnia stems from North America's first oil discovery. So it only made sense to build all these refineries over here and to house all the workers here, except whoa, all these chemical plants might actually harm our handsome white workers, so let's move them here and let the native community, the rightful owners of this land, endure all the worst health and environmental effects. Richard's story highlights a trade-off of health for home, but that shouldn't have to be a choice.
This is probably one of the best times of my life right now. Just coming home and being here, and I dreamed about this for so long. I traveled so many years and lived in Toronto for 7-8 years, and I always dreamt about home, coming home, and so this is.
There's no place like home.
Yeah. So.